Five, four, three, two, one, and we should be live, but the feed is slow. But the feed is slow. Oh, maybe I'm the one who's slow. Five, four, three, two, one. Here we go. We're live. Welcome to the 52nd episode of the Hagwon Startup podcast. A podcast that talks about anything and everything related to the starting and running of Hagwon's English language institutes here in South Korea, as well as gombobangs, which are smaller versions of the same thing, run from home versus a proper brick and mortar business, as well as anything else to do with living and enjoying yourself and spending your lifetime here in and around South Korea and a number of Asian parts. I am live here today from home, and for some reason I wasn't able to set up the internet very well, and so I see that there is a bit of a run from home versus a the sound is great as always, but the video is a bit edgy, a bit dodgy. I tried to plug in my my internet cable, Ethernet, Ethernet, the Ethernet, and it wasn't really doing much for some reason. Because my laptop, I never use my laptop at home anymore, and apparently things have changed. So I always plug in my computer. I just need to get a camera for that thing, so have a better setup, I guess. With time, that's gonna happen sometime. So the introduction is about Hagwon Startups and about gombobangs and businesses in South Korea and anything else related. So today we're going to be talking about anything else related to the living and breathing in South Korea. I wanted to come home earlier because I was kind of debating on whether I would run the podcast today, and I decided to do it because the reason why I was debating on whether to do it or not is because I'm just exhausted. My wife and I spent a weekend working away at the new English Shane School, which was quite tiresome, as you can imagine. It's a big school, there's lots to do, lots of cleaning, and spending the entire Sunday on my knees putting things together and stuff took a beating on me. So basically I've been working for the past, I don't know, 3 weeks straight, every weekend. Basically that's what it comes down to. We no longer have weekends for the time being, at least. Hopefully that'll change with time, but for now it is what it is, right? So that's what you have, that's what you're gonna do. I spent a weekend, so I was debating on whether I should or should not have the podcast, and I decided that I would, but I wanted to do it from home because it would give me a little bit more comfort, which it does. It feels a little bit more comfortable. I was able to shove some food in my belly quickly, which filled me up, so that's nice, because I was super duper hungry. And I have right. So today I wanted to talk about the title of the podcast is coronavirus. It's not clickbait, although it may appear to be, but it is on everyone's lips. You know, it's the thing to talk about these days. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit, um, and go over some other things that are presently happening in the Korean news. Um, Pertaining to South Korea. And in order to do that, I have to adjust the window view here. Shook, shook, shook. Okay. See, since I don't have a guest speaker today, I am able to present you with a much larger screen, which is very nice. Because I'll be able to have a larger screen, more visibility here, which, like I said, is pretty nice. So what are we talking about? The coronavirus, yeah? It's on everyone's lips, and I've seen people concerned about it, people snicker about it. There seems to be a lot of mixed emotions about it, right? Clearly, it's an epidemic of massive proportions, people say. A lot of people are affected. I think the biggest thing that freaks the hell out of people is the fact that it's spreading quite rapidly, and media has a tendency to blow things out of proportion, because media is very good at that, to skew reality in its own favor. I've posted some things on Facebook about how the virus is spreading, but at the same time I've also done some reading on my own, and so I guess this is more for people who are back home in Korea, in Canada maybe, who are maybe a little bit concerned about what is happening here in Korea, and who may be a bit freaked out about what may be happening. So and so I was reading out up a little bit on the virus itself, and I came upon a website, a YouTube channel actually, a YouTube channel by a guy called, let me just check it out quickly on my other machine here in front of me. I think he was called Mr. Doctor, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Doctor or Dr. Mike. Oh, maybe that's what it was, Dr. Mike. Yeah. If you go to YouTube, if you're interested in finding out a little bit more, I found. Let me maybe dig it up here. Let's go to. Hello, that's me. Yeah, that's not the best option here. Wait, let's open a new window. Dr. Mike talks about where's Dr. Mike? Dr. Mike. There's Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike, oh, here you go. Coronavirus outbreak. It's a short video. How long is it? Literally maybe 15 minutes or so. And he's an American doctor. He's a doctor based in the United States, and he breaks down how the virus, where the virus originated. Breaks down the virus itself, and I'm sure, I mean, you could find it out on your own. You go on the internet and just Google it. Wikipedia's got plenty of stuff, plenty of information. You can look it up. But this guy kind of goes into detail a little bit more, and he mentions some things that basically put the whole virus issue into perspective, into a better perspective. If you haven't done any research yourself, then on it, then he kind of lays it out a little bit better. And one of the things that he makes a mention of is that media, as they always like to do, tends to exaggerate. Hey, Rhett is here. I haven't even noticed that. Hey, Rhett, nice to see you. Media tends to skew information in its own favor, basically. Media particularly, well, all sorts of media, the mainstream as well, maybe even more so the smaller outlets, um, are working on the whole clickbait principle. Brett, I just wanted to mention that my apologies for the quality of the video. I'm streaming from home, and the connection is kind of up and down, on and off. It's 3,000 kilobytes per second to 1,700, and it's up and down. So the quality is a bit spotty, but the sound, I think, is coming through fine. Uh, so Dr. Mike here mentions that as well. Basically, the reason why, for some reason, audiences, people, we love drama, we love tragedy, and that's why videos like, 5 things I hate about dot 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 blah blah blah, and 5, 10 things I hate about blah blah blah, are really take off on YouTube. One of the things, I don't know, people just love to listen to others whose lives are more miserable than theirs, and so um, they they will come in and click into the titles that are, basically clickbaits, coronavirus outbreak and blah, spreading and scary stuff. Um, And so a lot of people will create articles and write articles, and the media will publish articles that are subheaded in that way in order to draw attention, in order to get people to click. And every time you click on these things, these places get paid in one or another form. And so that's why you have a lot of negative, I guess, headlines out there. That's basically what Dr. Mike was saying, and I can kind of understand where he's coming from, because I do, well, clearly media feeds on headlines, right? That's what their livelihood is in. But there was a few articles I posted on Facebook. One of them was in relation to one article was about influenza, basically saying that it was that there were 19 million Americans infected with influenza at the present time, and um, that about 10,000 people died just this season alone. And yet, the comments that I received were basically snickers. People were snickering at that idea that influenza killed nearly 10,000 people, which is kind of strange in a way. I don't know, saying, oh, the mortality rate for influenza is not as high as it is for the coronavirus and whatnot. Um, and yeah, I don't know. It just I guess well, first of all, first of the things that Dr. Mike out there says is that there are several species or several strains of the coronavirus, and they range from mild ones to severe ones. Like SARS was a type of coronavirus. Some strains of coronavirus can cause illnesses like the common flu, right? Um, the present coronavirus is a new strain of a coronavirus, and I guess it's a mutation that originated in Wuhan, and some people started to call it the Wuhan virus rather, which is kind of unfortunate, I think, but nonetheless. But it seems to me that the problem is mainly located in China, and the same thing with Dr. Mike basically was saying the same thing, that the fear and the panic or anxiety that people seem to be exhibiting these days because of the virus, the presence of the virus, are rather ungrounded. Um, Basically saying that um, um, I lost my train of thought. He's saying that what's the word? The fears are ungrounded because unless you have come in contact with people who have come directly from China or directly from Wuhan, then you basically have nothing to be afraid of. Basically, uh, right now, I guess these are early stages. So people are kind of, like we're living in Ulsan, and we have not had anybody flying into Ulsan from Wuhan for that, for example, and so chances of us or anybody here in Ulsan getting become infected with the disease um, are slim to none. But yet, our schools, like my schools and my son's kindergarten, basically, my son's kindergarten is missing a bunch of children. Every day for the past week, we've been coming, hey, Sophia, nice to see ya. uh, I've been dropping my son off, and the by looking at the shelves of kids' shoes, half of them are missing. So and then I see adults and younger people wearing masks when they didn't really wear masks in the past. Another strange thing that I find is, which is kind of tied to this anxiety, unnecessary anxiety, and maybe lack of awareness, is people wearing the wrong masks. If you go and look, read up, the whole mask idea, it's pretty much the same as it is with using masks during high pollution days, or during days of high pollution. The best masks to use are at least whatever the acronym is, KF95 or 94. I think 94 are the ones that are most readily available in most pharmacies. If you want to get KF95 or above, I think for the most part you need to order them online through merchants. But yet I see people wearing just regular masks that prevent germs from spreading from you onto other people if you have a cold or a sneeze or whatever. But these masks don't actually do a lot in the way of protecting you from the outside germs. Uh, for one, they're not very tight, which means that germs or whatever can get in. Now I'm talking about the virus, not necessarily the pollutants, because the pollutants, and when it comes to the pollutants, most of these masks are relatively ineffective when it comes to the very, very small particles. But for the virus, for the time being, the coronavirus, or any germs, I guess, the masks are not very tight. So um, you could still get a lot of stuff coming in through the sides or from the mask from the front itself. If you have a KF95 mask, then your chances of being safe are higher, but they're still standing at about a 95 or 80% um, safety rate or whatever. Um, so in order to be like 100% protected, you need to wear like a heavy duty mask on your face, and I think most people don't. So, yeah. But in the meantime, so basically, yeah, like I said, a lot of the stuff is not necessarily ungrounded, a bit ungrounded. People are a bit scared, more than necessary, I think. And when looking at things like the influenza, which just in a season, so the article I saw was that in the season, this season right now, the article was posted, I think, January the 20th, and it said that it killed like 10,000 people in the States alone. 19 million were infected. So that's a huge number compared to the coronavirus. And again, I'm not dismissing the coronavirus, absolutely not. Clearly, that's something to be cautious of. But I think unless you have traveled to Wuhan or you're coming from the infected area or from China itself, you probably don't have, like, your chances of contracting the virus are relatively slim, unless you come in contact with someone who traveled from Wuhan itself or from China itself, right? Um, But having said that, I think it is a good idea for like the article title here: Moon reaffirms support for China in epidemic. So I guess I don't know. Some of the things that I was told by students was that President Moon sent something in the vicinity of $300 million to China to support to help the government out with, I don't know, finances. Apparently, from what I understand, there's a lot of YouTubers. Well, a lot of there's a few YouTubers and few videos I've watched on YouTube of people saying that Wuhan is actually struggling in terms of medical aid and medical assistance. There's a lot of equipment that's missing. The medical staff are missing proper equipment, masks, and so on. And so um, there are a few videos posted by Chinese residents, by Wuhan residents rather, asking people to donate masks if possible. And it seems to be a reality that uh, masks on Amazon have been sold out. I've received requests myself from people from China mainland for masks. Apparently, it's really difficult to get these things. So uh, supply is tight, um, and so countries jump to. So while Korea President Moon is supporting and wants to support China. China is a country which, what is it here? Let's say China is a country with which we conduct the largest people-to-people exchange and trade. China's difficulties are linked to our difficulties, Moon said during a meeting with the senior aides at Chewan, Chongwede. Um, but he did make a point of saying that, oh, brother, okay, this is like a longer article and it's been cut off because, well, because I'm quite inept at. Um, Hold on a second. I think I gotta adjust this a little bit so people can read it better. Give me a minute here. No, not minute. I'll need like just a few seconds. Okay. How are we doing? How are we doing there, article? Are we doing okay? Hey, article. Okay, I don't know if you can see everything, but let's assume you can. I think you'll be able to see the most important parts here. Moon stressed the remarks came Seoul's announcement to the remarks came amid rising concern that Seoul's announcement to temporarily prohibit the entry of foreigners who have traveled to Hubei province. I don't know if that's pronounced correctly. Hubei. Um, in the last 2 weeks could hamper relations with China. Basically, President Moon said that anybody who has traveled to Hubei province should not be allowed to enter Seoul, which I personally think is a good idea. Um, I think that China would do the exact same thing. From what I've seen from YouTubers, China has a tendency, the Chinese government has a tendency to adjust and adapt things to fit their own agenda, to help their own people. So I don't think that if there was a case of an outbreak of any kind outside of China and the possibility of it spreading to the Chinese mainland, I don't think the government would hesitate in banning people from simply coming in. But yet, um, I think U.S. Considered similar measures, and apparently Chinese government has issues with that. But I think it's good. I think for the time being, at least, putting a slight ban on travel from for passengers or whoever, people coming from China to Korea, good idea. Personally, just because, give it some time. China has it bad. I think my personal opinion on the whole issue is the number of cases present in China is quite large, and people have. If you go on Wikipedia and dig it up, it says that the virus is said to have started sometime in November, which means that it was spreading quite way before it was actually announced and made public worldwide. So my guess is that the government, Chinese government, was aware of what was happening. As a matter of fact, I think there were a few doctors who were actually put in jail trying to spread the news and trying to share the news, and they were put in jail. And anybody who was trying to do the same was as well. So that news was covered up for a long time before it actually was made public, and I assume that it was made public because things were beginning to get out of hand, and so they had to be talked of, I guess. So Moon putting a temporary ban on people traveling to Korea, I think that's a good thing. Why the heck not? The president stressed the need to contain secondary and tertiary infections. In particular, we must actively respond to the public's anxiety, he said. Moon also underlined the importance of closer cooperation between central and local governments and reassured the people of the government's full commitment to keep on top of the situation. So, oh, I just realized that wasn't even on. Okay, this was on here. So I think while some people may have a problem with President Moon sending a lot of money in the way of China, I think he did it in the way of appeasing the government for blocking the people from coming in. So here's some cash, but stay out of our, stay behind our borders. I think that's a good move. Calls grow for outright entry ban of Chinese. People of Korea are getting a bit antsy. The government's plan to ban the entry of foreigners who've been to Hubei province, China, the epicenter of the new coronavirus outbreaks, will be ineffective, according to medical experts Monday. They called for an outright entry ban on all people coming from China. So I don't think that's going to happen for reasons stated and, economic reasons as well. The government's measure is ineffective because the Chinese government has already banned people in Hubei from traveling outside. Rule number 1 in quarantine is to stop physical contact with those infected. Yeah, but there was about 5 million people who left Hubei, I think, right after the outbreak or right after the quarantine was passed. So that's basically how the virus began to spread, right? The ban is going into effect today at all airports and ports. Foreign nationals who visited Hubei province after January 1st, January 20th will be denied entry, while Koreans will be allowed to go home after giving all appropriate contact information to the authorities and begin instructed to observe the quarantine for 14 days. About, what was it, last Friday, I think? Or Thursday. Apparently, Korea imported 300 something Korean residents from Wuhan. So Koreans who were living in Wuhan were basically evacuated outside of Wuhan and brought back to Korea. And from what I understand, they're being held in quarantine right now. I guess they will remain there for the next 14 days or so, right? And la di da. So, yeah. And I guess you could ask, like, how does this affect, the education industry in Korea? Well, like I said, my son's kindergarten has been pretty, what's the word? Well, pretty thinly spread. Like, there were very few kids who were being sent to the kindy, actually. I saw very few little shoes standing around, like maybe half of what you would expect to be there, which is, interesting to see that people are not sending their kids to kindergartens. I assume that our numbers at our Hagwon will slightly drop. Excuse me, I was getting a drink of water. Will drop slightly as well, because believe it or not, people are concerned, particularly, for their kids, because the most vulnerable groups are the little ones, children below 5, I guess, which kind of includes anybody who's around, 6, 7, 8, and the elderly, right? Um, and one thing that I wonder, is, will will our numbers, for the new school opening up next week? We're moving next week. Would our numbers be be affected by the coronavirus? I wonder if we're gonna suffer any damages, punitive damages, in in as a result of the outbreak. We were actually really concerned, but I think, ungroundedly so. But I don't know. So I'm wondering if people running their own gumbobam businesses and hagwons here in South Korea, if you're experiencing any lacks, if there's people who are having, um, I don't know, students not show up for whatever reason. Well, for this reason, I guess. I wonder. Um, okay, moving on. Um, Moving on to what? South Korea, The Parasite. Have you ever seen that movie? Very famous. I don't know. It came out in Korea a little while ago, and apparently it received, an acclaimed, Parasite: The Real People Living in Seoul's Basement Apartments. The movie is about. I guess it talks about um, the growing. What's the word? The growing, distance between the poor and the rich in South Korea. I have never seen the movie. It just came out recently. Uh, but it talks about people who live in tiny little basements. People can peer into his apartment through the windows, like this dude here looking in. Teenagers occasionally smoke outside his flat or spit onto the ground. In the summer, he suffers unbearable humidity and battles with rapidly growing mold, um, while people, live in amazing apartments. So, um, being in Seoul, um, I noticed that there's a lot more, people living on the street, and it's usually the elderly, which is a bit disconcerting. But I guess it's no different than any other large developing or developed nation. So I'm not sure if that's exactly news, but I think, this is an important, movie to talk about in Korea, where a country that doesn't really address issues such like this one. I think for the most part, people just kind of shove things underneath the carpet, and they don't really address the burning urgent issues that happen in Korea. Um, because it's better not to. It's better to live in a manicured world and not have any problems to face with, which is basically why, the handicap, have been hidden away from public for many years. Um, and even to this day, um, there's a lot more schools. I think there's schools, like special schools for people with handicaps, either mental or, physical handicaps. But even so, it's still a very gray issue, or rather something that's not, talked about. Um, so I think maybe what this movie might be doing, is bringing attention to these very gray, very untalked of areas. Um, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I think of Korea. It's like the I don't want to sound too harsh, but it's kind of like the Nazi Germany, or the Nazi Europe that was happening. Romania under Ceausescu, basically was, where Ceausescu in Romania was exterminating, half of its population, um, uh, of children who were either handicapped, or I don't know exactly what the conditions were, but they were after Ceausescu was gone, and I don't know my history enough to say how he was gone. Um, um, there were hospitals found full of children who were basically abandoned in these hospitals, handicapped kids um, who were living in just miserable conditions, man. And sometimes it feels like has been in a similar position. People of that, with disabilities have just been pushed aside and hidden, and it's never talked about because, it's almost like we shouldn't talk about these things that put shame to our otherwise perfect nation. So so this movie, I think, kind of maybe why the reason why it's getting so much acclaim uh, is because it talks about these issues, it brings them to light, and it addresses these differences which people normally don't talk about. Yeah, yeah, yes, yes, indeed. Moving on from this very important subject to another one. South Korea transgender soldier to sue over dismissal. Um, there is a short little video. I wonder if I can play it here. Where did I watch it? It was here. Is this it? Maybe. Let's see. No. No. Hmm. Unfortunate. There was a video I watched earlier. It was a very short little video. Okay, but let's read it. So, Byeon Hae-soo, 22, joined the army as a man but had gender reassignment surgery last year after suffering from gender dysphoria and mental health issues. She accused the military of deep-rooted intolerance of sexual minorities. South Korea remains conservative on matters of sexual identity. Ms. Byun's case has led to debate over the treatment of transgender soldiers as well as those from the wider LGBT community. She said, "I don't need a son like you." Uh, wait, that's required to carry out military service for nearly 2 years. Say during emotional 45 appearance, the staff surgeon said she had wanted to stay in the army after her operation, which took place in Thailand in November. Wow. So he did the whole thing. "I will continue to fight until the day I can remain to serve in the army. I'll challenge the decision until the end to the Supreme Court." Um, it's interesting to talk about. I had a discussion with one of my students just the other day, exactly on that very topic. And so my student is a girl. She's 13 or 14 right now, um, and we were talking. Actually, we were talking about pop music, and there's a song by some American pop singer in which she has a crush on this dude who mows her lawn, and and so um, she drools all over herself, and looking at him, and then finally she gets a chance to talk to him, and she's writing her number down, and we can see this guy walking over to the guy in the band and handing him his number, saying, "Call me." So basically the joke was that she was chasing a dude who was well, towards the end of the video seemed to be gay, because he asked another guy to give him a call. That's what the video kind of portrayed. And so my student was saying that even in her class, students of her age are still opposed to it, to people of uh, to gay people, yeah. But at the same time, she was also saying that I asked her, whether she thought there were a lot of gay people in South Korea, and she said no, there weren't many gay people or gay men in South Korea. And so I gave her the statistic of, Canada being a smaller country, but I know that there are many gay people. I don't know what the statistics are. I don't know how many, but clearly there are. Um, and so to say that there aren't that many gay people here is just a show of I guess the pressure a society puts on its younger people, on society, or on the beliefs in general. Like we're saying, yes, there are some gay people, but there aren't that many, because in Korea there aren't that many. And one of the reasons for that was, she was saying, my student said that um, people in Korea in generally don't like people who are gay, I guess. And so that seemed to be enough to minimize the number of gay people that there were in South Korea, which clearly, the cause and effect is not there. Mm. But so so it's good to see these things being brought to light. I think these are issues that are necessary to talk about in Korea. I think this is like the second or third case. There's another YouTuber. They're called BJ, which is a very weird name for YouTuber. That I was trying to figure out what the B stands for. J could be for jockey, like as a DJ and a disc jockey, but a BJ. In English, it's got a very different meaning, which I could not explain to my 13-year-old female student in class. But I'm wondering what it stands for in Korea. The BJ whatever TV. Yeah. Anyway, so there's another BJ TV YouTuber who is a transgender, and apparently there's a whole world of, there are some people in South Korea who have a transgender group, and I'm sure it's really hard for them to live here in a society that's so dismissive, so looks so negatively at the LGBT community. And so there's this girl, Byeon Hae-soo. I guess that's probably her name, Byeon Hae-soo. And just recently, I also read an article that was posted by about a mom whose son came out gay, and she was very supportive of him here in South Korea. So it's good to see that these things are taking place here in Korea. I think, um, you know, Korea's getting a bit of a shake-up. Okay, moving on. Wow. Something a bit more scary. I don't know. A bit more like, crap, is this happening? Let's see here. Pew, The Independent is posting, stop. Japan planning to release over 1 million tons of radioactive water into sea from Fukushima power plant. Man, now that's just uncool, Japan. What the hell are you doing? Massive amounts of this is, I don't know exactly what this footage is of here. There is no sound to it. It's a short little video of, I have no idea, murky water being, okay, it's not playing, it played. Anyway, okay, let's go. Massive amounts of radioactive water being stored at Japan's Fukushima power plant could be released into the sea under plans provisionally accepted by the country's government. Tokyo Electric has collected nearly 1.2 million tons of contaminated water from cooling pipes used to keep fuel cores from melting, since the plant was devastated by the earthquake and tsunami which hit eastern Japan in 2011. The water, containing 62 radioactive elements, is stored in huge tanks on the site of the now disabled power plant. But Tokyo Electric has said it will run out of room to store water by 2022. So we got 2 years until all that crap is dumped into the ocean. The water, has been treated, and Tokyo Electric said it is able to remove all radioactive particles.
이럴 땐 오늘 드림.
What's playing? Stop it. Wait a second. Okay, where are we? That was when the advertisement was playing. From what harmful to, except titanium, an isotope of hydrogen which is more difficult to separate from water. A panel of experts working for Japan Economic Industry Ministry concluded that letting the water run into the sea was the best option after looking at other proposals. The only other viable option considered was to let the water evaporate. Bugger. Yeah. Sure, whatever. Just don't dump that crap into the oceans, man. Because you know what's gonna happen. Fish will be swimming in it, and then we'll be eating the fish. And that's what's gonna happen. There's no excuse, man. In Friday's proposal, the ministry said the controlled release to the sea is superior because its route is predictable and easier to sample and monitor. Compared to evaporation, ocean release can be done more securely. The committee said, pointing to common practice around the world where nuclear power stations operating under normal conditions routinely release water containing tritium into the sea. But the decision will alarm neighboring countries and comes ahead of Japan's hosting the 2020 Olympic Games, which some events due to be held less than 60 kilometers away from the Fukushima site. Man, are you going to the Olympics? Fishermen and residents also fear health effects from releasing radioactive water, as well as harm to the region's image and farm industries. Yeah, no kidding. Neighboring South Korea has retained a ban on imports of seafood from Japan's Fukushima region imposed after the nuclear disaster and summoned a senior Japanese embassy official last year to explain how the Fukushima water would be dealt with, Reuters reported. South Korean athletes are planning to bring their own radiation detectors and food to the games. Experts say there is no established method to fully separate tritium from water, but it is not a problem in small amounts. Government's officials also say titanium is routinely released from existing nuclear power plants around the world. Everything in moderation. The report acknowledges the water releases would harm industries that still face reluctant consumers despite safety checks. It promises to reinforce monitoring of tritium levels and food safety checks to address safety concerns. Yeah. It ain't all peachy. Releasing, I think we read this already. Releasing crap into the ocean is just not a good idea. South Korea has 15 coronavirus patients. Oh, I didn't even see that one. 361 deaths. When was this published? Let's have a look. All patients are in stable condition, it said. Of the patients aged 25, 62, and 10 are male. When is this date? February 3rd, so that's today. So as of today, there are 15 cases of coronavirus in South Korea, with no additional cases since Sunday. The Korea Center for Disease Control and Prevention tests were underway for 61 people with suspicions from released from quarantine after testing negative for the deadly virus. Okay. Alright, so a bunch of people were tested, only 15 were found to be eligible for patienthood. China announces 361 deaths, 2,829 new cases for a total of 17,205. Not so bad when you compare it to the 19 million of the influenza virus, right? Fear not, people. It's not as bad as it seems to be. I say, keep on trucking. Zombie scum, wash your hands. Wear a mask if you need to. If you go into public spaces and crowded spaces, wear a mask. Keep a distance of 6 feet if you must, if you can, so people don't sneeze on you, because projectiles travel about 6 feet, I guess. So if you keep a 6 feet distance between yourself and other people, then you should be okay. And what else is there to say, people? That's all there is, I would say. And that's all there is. Thank you for watching. To Brett and Sophia, thanks for stopping by. I'm not sure how many people stuck around till the very end, very few. I'm hoping that next week, I was planning this week, I was planning to have a talk about Piaget's theories and if its effects and importance on teaching youths. But I'm having a hard time finding the time to properly re-educate myself on the Piaget's, on the theories of Piaget. Because I took some time to look at them briefly and it just isn't enough because they're pretty dense, and so I'm trying to find a way to summarize it, and I was hoping to create a PowerPoint, kind of a visual that I could use, and I just don't have the time to do it, unfortunately, because I'm so swamped with with the new school. So I'm hoping to do that within the next couple of weeks. Once things settle down a little bit and I'll have a little bit more time, I'll be able to sit down and make a presentation. I would like to talk about Piaget's theories and how they apply to teaching, because I think that would be very interesting. And that idea was brought forth by Red Burton, actually, a couple of weeks ago, and I thought I would kick that off. So, but that's, I think, next week or maybe in 2 weeks. In the meantime, happy Monday, happy February 3rd. Stay safe out there. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a good night. Bye bye.